a little teensy bit. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Just a little bit about me. Like Amy was saying, I am an artist. I'm a graphic designer. I am also in marketing. I'm the director of marketing for the New Hampshire Harm Reduction Coalition. So lots of artsy stuff all over the place. So for me, my non-binary journey kind of started out as like a spiritual one, because I was like, I feel like my soul, and my soul is not anything. It's just my soul. And gender doesn't really feel like it fits my soul. So that's kind of where my individual journey started. And I came out maybe like a little over a year ago, and I've been doing some of these little presentations to help folks maybe understand a little bit better and to have some action items and resources and all that jazz. So let's get started. Oh, and by the way, these are the colors for the non-binary flag. Okay, so we'll get right into it. What is non-binary? So people whose gender is not male or female, and there's a bunch of different terms to describe ourselves, non-binary kind of being the most popular or most widely known term, but there's also genderqueer, agender, bigender, and then two-spirit, which two-spirit is specific to Indigenous cultures. So none of these terms mean exactly the same thing, but do all speak to an experience of gender that is outside of the binary and not simply male or female. All right, so what are the differences between all of these things? So male or female is a label that is assigned to you by a doctor right when you're born, based on your body parts that you're born with, and then also chromosomes, and that goes on your birth certificate. Gender is a little bit more complex. It's a social and legal status and a set of expectations from society about behaviors, characteristics, and thoughts. So think about how, in America here, we have different gender roles for men and women. That is socially constructed. So, and I say America because these gender roles look different amongst different cultures in different regions, even, and different countries. So they're all based on our gender. Gender identity is how you feel on the inside. So like I was explaining before about how it kind of started as a spiritual experience for me, saying like, what does my soul feel like? I am my soul. What does that feel like to me? And it's also how you express your gender through clothing, through behavior, personal appearance, haircuts, makeup, no makeup. And it's a feeling that begins very early on in life for a lot of people. So here is a little bit of history. So the gender binary is a measurement tool. So it's kind of like male is over here, and well, binary meaning there's only two. So that idea is a colonial construct, meaning that colonizers and the pilgrims brought that over to the Americas. That was not here before that. So it's a colonial construct. And I can send people this afterwards, because everything in here is a live link. And I would really highly recommend following Illuminative on Facebook, on Instagram. They have some really great posts, not only about gender, but also about Indigenous culture. That's really great. So I follow them. So here's some history that they've shared. In Hawaiian communities, the word mahu means those who embrace both feminine and masculine traits that are embodied in each of us. And I may have pronounced that word wrong. And then in Lakota, there's a special word for it that translates to be as a woman, and refers to two-souled Lakota people who go beyond the boundaries and binaries of gender. And then in Navajo, there are at least 4 words for gender, so lots of options. And then these are only just a few examples of Indigenous understandings outside of the binary. And a little bit more history, European settlers were appalled by the gender fluidity they witnessed. It went against their really strict Christian beliefs, and then they really attempted to exterminate this out of Indigenous peoples. It's in very violent ways. And today, two-spirit, trans, queer, and gender nonconforming relatives still experience disproportionate levels of violence and are often disenfranchised from even their Indigenous communities because of these colonial white supremacy beliefs, essentially. And here are some faces you might recognize in pulp culture that are non-binary. And this is just to illustrate that not all non-binary folks use the same pronouns. Like we have Demi Lovato, goes by they, them. Janelle Monáe goes by she, her. Sam Smith is they, them. Bridget Lundy Payne is they, them. Amanda Steinberg is she, her. And the fabulous Jonathan Van Ness uses all pronouns. So even within the non-binary community, there is variety in the pronouns that are used. So here are some helpful action items for folks who want to be allies. So when you're unsure of someone's pronouns, you can just use gender neutral language like friend or folks, or even just use their name if you don't know, and then maybe you can ask them later. And something also that's helpful for people who are cis, which I should have explained that before. Cis just means that you do identify with what was written on your birth certificate. So that's what makes someone cis. So cis folks who want to be allies, they can introduce themselves with their pronouns, because that kind of makes it like breaks the ice, so that if I introduce myself with my pronouns, I'm not the only person in like a group of 20 people who are doing it, because then it kind of like puts a target on me. But if like 3 or 4 or 5 other people out of a group of 20 do it, it makes me feel a little bit safer, which is nice and always appreciated. Along that vein, you can display your pronouns on social media, in your email signature. That's always really helpful. And even beyond like being non-binary, it can also help cis folks, because if you have like a typically gender neutral name, that can help you also not be misgendered by folks. And another thing you can do is take a look at your workplace employee handbook and see if they have gender neutral language. So like my first job out of college, I did a lot of work with the employee handbook just because I'm a graphic designer. And I noticed that speaking about pregnancy leave, it was all like she, her, which doesn't really encompass the experiences of everyone, because we have non-binary people who can give birth and even some trans men who can give birth. So just using gender neutral language like parent is super helpful. And then using someone's correct pronouns, even if they aren't physically around you, is really great, because that shows them that you really see them as the pronouns that they use. And also it's great practice too. That way you're less likely to mess up when you're in person with them. So practicing is really helpful. A little tip that I used before when I first started making non-binary friends was to put their pronouns in my phone, like next to their contact, was helpful. And then also if like I felt like I was going to have a slip up, I just used their name. Listen with an open heart, because I know these things go back much farther. Like I said, even like before white people were really here in America, this is very deeply seated, and it takes time to unwork those things. So just listening with an open heart, it can be really helpful, because the LGBTQI community recognizes that these things are very deeply rooted. And again, just educating yourself, and just by being here, you're already taking that first step. And then diversifying your feed, or even authors, radio, like whatever media you consume, diversifying it by engaging with trans and gender non-conforming people. And I have some great people here that you could follow. So here is Chris Mossier. He is a trans man. He's a trans athlete. He is a really great advocate to follow, very informational, very educational, super. I would definitely recommend following him. And again, I can send folks this. I've also sent it to Amy. So you can just click on the picture and it'll bring you right to it. Here is Angel Joy. She was actually on the most recent season of Queer Eye, and she's a trans woman, and she's also an athlete. And then we have excuse me for mispronouncing this. We'll just say Nisks. They go by they, she, and they are a two-spirit person. They were also actually on Queer Eye, very informational. They post a lot of great stuff. They are also a really awesome artist. And then we have Alok, who wrote the book Beyond the Gender Binary. But aside from that, writing that book, which I would highly recommend, even as a queer person, when I first read it, I found out things that like I didn't know about. It's very quick. It's very beginner friendly. I feel I really enjoyed it and I would read it again. But also Alok makes visual art and is a poet. So really cool stuff. And then these are just some resources. I think, Amy, you said that you have the middle one, the library does? Yes, the library has the middle one. But all these are really great. And then again, this links out to them. And then I also made like when I first came out in last year of April, I just made this quick like Q&A for folks, because I know like coming out, people would have questions and sometimes they feel like, oh, I don't want to be rude, I don't want to ask these questions. So I just made a Q&A. So this is just from my experience. Like I can't speak on everyone's experience because, you know, my experience as a small, thin, non-binary white person is going to differ a lot from so maybe someone who's Native American or someone who's Black. Like culture impacts gender very intimately. So yeah, this is just from my point of view. And I think that's it. So I'll stop sharing. Did I do it? Did I stop sharing?
Yes, you did. Good job.
Thanks.
Yay.
So,
conquered the technology today.
Yes. So if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer any if you have any. And also, if you would like my presentation too, I can email it to you.
Yeah. Yes, and we have it, like Han said, I have it as well, so I can email it to everybody who registered for the program. But if you want to pop your email address in the chat too, or just message it to me, we can make sure that you get that. If you're interested, we'll probably share it on our website as well. And yeah, I think that was so great and informative. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Han, for sharing your experience with us. And I think it's great to hear all the ways that people can help support this community. Karen, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question. I just want to say that the thing that I just got out of this is how important it is to put your pronouns in, because I know Mary does that, but I have not done that. And my granddaughter is a they, and she is always on me about using proper pronouns. And I can see how valuable offering mine will be to just be participatory, but I can't say that word, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to figure out how to do that. Thank you. Thank you. That was really important.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know how to do that. How do I do it on my?
Oh, we can have a little tech tutorial.
Yeah, I'll come see you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes, we can
Absolutely.
show you how.
And I think I forgot to say this during the presentation because there's just so much to say. But one question I get asked a lot is like, oh, what if I mess up? Because like that's very natural. Like I said before, these things are very, I mean, we're here before any of us were born. So it's a lot to navigate, and messing up, I think, is just going to happen. And I think this is how I feel, and I think this is like the general consensus of what I've heard other folks say, is that it's kind of just like messing up someone's name, like just saying like, oh, excuse me, or oh, sorry, and like making it just very like brief as to not draw a lot of attention to it, because then that makes it kind of like embarrassing, or also or being like oh, it's so hard for me, I'm so sorry, and like kind of like going on, and like that also can make it really embarrassing and like uncomfortable. So just like a very prompt like, oh, excuse me, and then correcting yourself and moving on. Like I think sometimes people think they do have to apologize a lot to like show that they are sorry, but a very like prompt, oh, excuse me, is perfect. And then it makes it kind of the conversation flow more nicely.
I have a sort of theoretical question. So, you said the birth certificate, you are assigned, one is assigned a sex at birth.
Mhm.
But it feels like as you were talking about it, there's a difference between sex and gender
Mhm.
in a way. I mean,
Yes.
okay. I wonder if you could talk more about that. I thought that was
Sure.
really fascinating.
Sure. So, so I always tell people sex is physical characteristics. So it's your body, it is your hormones, and it is your chromosomes. Like these are physical things.
Mhm.
And then gender is what is in your brain. So
Okay.
so sex is physical and gender is the mind.
Mhm.
So a lot of tests have shown, even just like with trans folks, like say someone who is assigned female at birth and then transitions to male, their brain scans look the same as a cis man. So it's just
Wow.
kind of a disconnect from the body and the mind, essentially. That's the easiest way to break it down. And even I think kind of what makes it a little bit more tangible for people is that like the gender binary is, yes, a measurement tool or like a tool to gather information, and it's right for some people and it's not right for some people, obviously, but it fails a lot of people because there are folks who are born intersex who the physical characteristics can be a myriad of ways, like both, or like have some internal organs of male, some external of female, or even like chromosome. There's like a million different ways to have your chromosomes be made up too. So the measurement tool, like, yes, it's helpful for people because there are a lot of cis people, but it also just like is not really a great measurement tool because there's as many intersex people in the United States as there is redheads.
Wow.
Yeah, so the fact that it fails that many people just in the intersex community alone kind of shows that it's not 100% reliable.
Wow.
That's really fascinating. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. I hope it helped.
Absolutely.
And I think Alok's book really speaks about these differences in a really very tangible and accessible way too. And even just like the posts that Alok makes too on Instagram is just like, it's really informational.
Yes. And the library also owns a copy of that book. It is just currently checked out.
Yay.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yes. So
Exactly.
place your holds.
Yeah.
And I, highly recommend it too. I've read bits and pieces of it, and it's fantastic. There's a wealth of information out there, and thank you for pointing us in the direction of finding some really good resources for our patrons and for us.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Wow.
Great. Any other last thoughts or questions, Karen? Here, I can think. Thank you. There we go.
So I don't want to be chatty Kathy or something, but I want to say the other valuable thing that I just heard Han say was about using pronouns when people aren't present.
Mm.
And
Mhm,
this is also true for people's chosen name.
mhm.
So my granddaughter's name is Cynthia, but she wants to be Cyn, and it's CYN. And if I don't say that when I'm talking about her, even when she's not here, then I inevitably call her Cindy, even when she's asked me to call her Cyn, and she's, as I said, a they. And so I try really hard every time I'm talking about her
Them.
to use her correct pronouns and her correct name. And again, thank you so much, because I just think that's so important. And it's just a way of honoring people, which is part of the open heartedness, is just saying, I don't have to understand how you feel. I have to just know that you've asked me to do this, and therefore I have to do it.
Yeah, and practice makes perfect, I say.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I feel fortunate to have people remind me when I when I screw up, because I will inevitably screw up. But you know, it's helpful because it is muscle memory, and you need to shift that. So
Yeah, totally. And that's another way to be a good ally too, is that so it's not on the non-binary person or the trans person to do the correcting, because like we do a lot of correcting. So
Right.
when someone else does it for us, it's just like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah. I can see how that would help.
Yeah, because like imagine if someone was getting your name wrong all the time and you had to like correct everyone about your name.
Mhm.
yeah, it's true.
It's nice to do others.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, I think that's it. So thank you, Han, so much
Yeah.
for sharing this wonderful presentation, and thank you everybody for joining us. And yay.
Yeah. And do
Now I have to
Amy,
come in and see the artwork.
Yes,
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 you
yes.
do.
It's up
Yes.
until July 28th, I think, is the absolute last day that the art is actually coming down. So plenty of time between now and then. And like I mentioned earlier, we're doing this presentation again tomorrow in person. So if you know some folks that missed it tonight, tell them to come tomorrow to the library. We'll be here at 6:30. And another little plug for Susan Dunholter, who's the other artist that's hanging with Han right now. She is doing a little project of sticky note collages. So come on in and pick up a little kit, and you can do one and bring it back. And we're going to display those in a week or so. I can't believe it's almost July. Yay!
It's goodbye.
Yes.
And Amy, I look forward to getting the PowerPoint, because it sounds like there are a lot of really good links to play with. So thank you.
Yes,
sending
yeah,
that
we'll
out.
be sure. I'll be sure to send it. I'll send it out, and I'll post it as well on the website, and probably share it on social media too, because it was great. As long as that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you very much. Have a good night. See you at the
Bye.
library.
Bye.